Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's nonprofit alternative to unemployment taxes. We're so happy to have all of you joining us today. And I hope you're all enjoying your lunch, your Uber Eats lunch. That's something we started during the pandemic, and it's been so popular. We've decided to keep that going. So I hope you've got a good salad, or I know in some parts of California today, at least in my neighborhood here in San Jose, it might be more of a soup day. So hopefully you're enjoying a lunch, and we are going to get started. We've got a few more people to sign in, but so I'm going to have a slow introduction as more people join us this afternoon. But first, a little, or as I can do a quick introduction and a little housekeeping all at the same time. This presentation is being recorded, and I will email you a copy of the recording along with the presentation at the conclusion. You also can get SHROOM and HRCI credits, so I will be distributing those to everyone who attends today as well. For the housekeeping side, if you do have any questions, there's a question box that I'm sure you're familiar with how to use that. And I might not be able to quite get to it today, and I apologize, or at least not during the presentation, but I will certainly be able to follow up with you via email or phone calls. So if you do get that question and I don't get it during this presentation, I will certainly get to it, as I will respond. So a little introduction of myself. My name is Heidi Posada, and I have been with 501c Services for 12 years now. Prior to coming here, I worked in some San Jose Bay Area nonprofits. I started with the YMCA of Silicon Valley, and then moved on to the American Cancer Society, where I always say there I was in the trenches raising money, and now I'm raising money for American Cancer Society statewide here in California, and now I'm happy to be able to be saving money for nonprofits nationwide. But of course, I always love talking with my California peeps, so I'm happy to be here talking about some California unemployment. And I also like to introduce my dog Hunter there. He gets a special photo because he sometimes also likes to come in and join our webinars, as I think we're all used to after all these years. But you might get to see a little wagging tail behind me at some point. And that if you hear a ferocious bark, that's that cute little Hunter. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. What we're going to talk about today first is just how unemployment insurance works. And then I'll talk a little bit about what you as a 501c3, some options that you have, some different alternatives you have when it comes to managing your unemployment. And then I'm going to specifically talk about how the unique option of reimbursing will work for you. And then I'll discuss some examples, and then where does 501c Services fit into this whole picture, and I will discuss that as well. So I always like to start with a little history. So a little time travel back to the 1930s, and that is actually when unemployment started here and it was part of the New Deal. Unemployment was developed. It was developed by the federal government, but from its beginning, it's been overseen by individual state. Each state runs their own unemployment. So you're going to see different policies, weekly benefit amounts, how they calculate, all of that is different in each state, but the big picture is overseen at the national level. So in 1930s to 1972, nonprofits didn't pay any unemployment, which was great. You were saving a lot of money. You didn't have that extra tax. You didn't have that tax burden. That money was going straight to your, straight towards the mission. Well, 1972, there was a Social Security Act that came along, and what they were realizing is this is great. Nonprofits aren't paying the tax. But the huge bummer is any employee that works for a nonprofit is not benefiting from the safety net that others, and that others that working in the for-profit world are benefiting from. So in 1972, as part of the Social Security Act, the federal government said, okay, states, nonprofits are now going to be paying for the unemployment, but they're going to have choices. But now, the great thing here is now, for the vast majority of people who work in a nonprofit, they do have the benefit, the safety net of being able to file unemployment claims. So how is unemployment run? It's run by the state, but every state has a rate that's calculated in different ways depending on the state that you're paying taxes in. It is run as a pool in every state. So what that means is they're taking money from all of the nonprofits, they're taking money from all of the for-profits, they're putting it in a huge billion-dollar pool here in California, and they're taking it out as needed. And what happens a lot of times is the nonprofits, because just the way business is run in a lot of nonprofits, is they're not using that risk pool nearly as much as the for-profit community is. So what they're going to do, though, is they take the tax liabilities, so that's what I'm saying, is the tax liabilities paid by employers are usually greater than the claims paid. So to calculate what you pay is they're going to use the taxable wage base in California and multiply that by the tax rate. And tax rates vary. It's very, I always compare it to a car insurance. The more money that you pay in without ever using it, your tax rate's going to go lower. So it's similar to a car insurance. If you get in a car accident the very first year you're driving a car, your tax rate's going to go, your insurance rate's going to go up pretty high with that car. So that's very similar to how California calculates your tax rate. So again, looking at the pool, about 90% of the pool is paid for by for-profit employers, and about 10% is nonprofit. You're all being based on the same taxable wages as well as the same tax rates. So a lot of times that for-profit side of it, when it comes to the pool, is getting a lot more out of it than what the nonprofits are, because again, we've seen through our years of business that nonprofits are a lot less likely to have people filing for unemployment in normal circumstances. So here's a little quiz. You can think about it as you're munching on your salad or having a little sip of your soup, thinking about what the cost of unemployment is. And what this question is how much does a person potentially collect over the lifetime of their unemployment claim here in California? And this varies greatly. But if you look at here in California, it's $11,700. And that can impact you no matter how you are managing your unemployment. And since we're focusing right now on the state unemployment pool, what happens is if someone files an unemployment claim, gets that whole 26-week benefit at $450, that's going to impact your tax rate. So you really want to manage those claims. You want to keep them as low as possible because you don't want your tax rate going up for unnecessary claims. So a snapshot of all of the data here in California, the maximum weekly benefit amount is $450. So that is if a person who files for unemployment is at a certain threshold, they will get $450 up to 26 weeks. The wage base, the federal government says wage base has to be at minimum $7,000. And we are at the minimum here in California, which is great, especially if your employee base is predominantly full-time, because almost everyone's going to hit that $7,000. You're going to pay it all in the first quarter, and the rest of the year you've paid your taxes. Where this hurts an employer is if you have a significant number of seasonal and part-time staff, because you're paying you have lower wages, so you end up essentially paying a higher percent towards the unemployment pool than those that have predominantly full-time staff. The minimum tax rate here in California is 1.6%, and the maximum tax rate is 6.2%. Now, another thing here in California that is really, really high is the estimated improper payment rate. And that results in a significant overpayment, or something that you as a nonprofit employer are paying way more into the pool than you should be. You can see this figure here, over $1.5 billion extra was paid out. And this is 2022. This isn't the pandemic. This isn't the fraudulent claims. This is 2022 money that was overpaid to former employees through the unemployment system, which means you are, whether you're reimbursing or paying SUI, you're paying for those extra charges. And a little bit about just how much an organization who's paying state unemployment tax is paying versus what they're getting out. I really love this information. In a typical year, on average, so this is taking everyone that pays into the pool, on average, organizations and companies are paying $1.28 into the pool for every dollar they're pulling out. So that's, what is that, 28% overpayment. During times of recession, that goes all the way up to $2.04 to replenish the pool. We haven't seen still the full impact here in California of the pandemic. Luckily so far, they haven't had to increase taxable wages. They haven't had to change the tax rates. Everything has stayed the same, which is very lucky. In most states, where our company works nationwide, in most states, we're seeing one or the other, if not both, changing. So far we haven't changed it, but it's likely eventually, because we do have to replenish that pool that was pulled from during the pandemic. So bottom line, when you're paying the state unemployment tax, you really have very little control over what you're going to pay in taxes. The one place you do have control is fighting any unemployment claims that come to you. That way you can keep that tax rate low. Outside of that, the state's going to set that tax rate. They're going to set the taxable wages, and you're just going to pay on that. The good news is, if you feel, or if you can tell, or if you know that you're overpaying the state tax, you have the option of reimbursing. This is an option for 501c3s. And I also really like just reviewing this, because I know a lot of people take a job. They maybe this is their first nonprofit job, the first time they've experienced reimbursing, and they might not understand why this choice was made for their organization. So I think this is really good to cover the benefits of the reimbursing option. So again, the option paying the state tax, we do know for some nonprofits, it is better for them. They have really high turnover. They have a lot of people filing unemployment claims. So for them, paying the state tax is a better option. But for many, the self-reimbursing option is a way more cost-effective way to manage your unemployment. And then the third option is one that some organizations choose to do, which is basically reimburse, so pay claim for claim, dollar for dollar on their claims, but then they buy insurance on top of that, which is something that we can do for nonprofits, is provide a proposal for that. So how reimbursing works is, first of all, you do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's not law that you have to have a payroll of $1 million or more, but especially here in California, we really say in general, it works best if you have a payroll of $1 million or more. If you want us to look at it and your payroll is a little bit less than that, we'll be happy to do an analysis for you and give you a recommendation. We do sometimes take organizations that have a smaller payroll, but for the most part, we say reimbursing is best for an organization with $1 million or more. And the positive audit, this is a little tricky because of the pandemic, but typically what we like to do is look at your 3-year history of unemployment claims and compare that to what you're paying in taxes, and make sure that over the last 3 years you've paid more in taxes. Again, with the pandemic and with, especially 2020, some really high claims for some organizations, we do take that into account when we're doing an analysis. Or if you choose to do an analysis on your own, that certainly you can take into account. And then no major disruption in funding expected for the next 24 months. So we really want to make sure, if you look at reimbursing, if you're paying SUI right now and you want to look at reimbursing, we want to really make sure that you're not anticipating any reduction in force in the near future. So how reimbursing works is, a lot of times I try and keep it simple, and I say basically your tax rate goes from as high as the 6.2% to 0%. So that's the first thing. You're no longer paying state tax, it goes 0%. And again, this is something, if you have staff in multiple states, it's something you can do in every state in the country. That tax rate goes to 0%. And then the state, people can still file for unemployment, but the state is going to charge you just for the exact dollar amount that they paid that former employee. So the process is seamless for employees. They still file with EDD. They still get a check from or I think it's now an ATM debit deposit. They still get that deposit. The only difference is for you as an employer, you're getting just charged for those claims instead of paying the unemployment tax. And we really look at this as being a good steward of donor dollars. It's a good way for many organizations to put money back into their mission. So really looking at, is it really, what's the savings really about? Well, we've been around for 40 years, and we do these, and we do free cost analysis all the time. And on average, it's about 20 to 40% less expensive. Again, there's some that it makes more sense for you to continue to pay SUI, but for the vast majority of nonprofits, it's 20 to 40% less expensive. Also, if the state changes their taxable wages, increases the maximum tax rate, you will avoid any of those issues that the state can do. And we're seeing more and more, definitely organizations I'm talking to, they're starting to hire people outside of the state that their headquarters are in. And the good news is, if you are one of those states or one of those employers, this is available. The reimbursing is available in all 50 states, and even DC if you have someone way over there. It's something that you can look at, or we would be more than happy to look at all of your states that you have employees to see if reimbursing or paying state unemployment tax is the best option. And we do have, a lot of times we'll have organization pay SUI, pay into the tax pool in some states because that makes more sense in those states, and then reimburse in other states. So that is definitely an option. It's made on a statewide basis. So how reimbursing works is, or some different strategies if you do want to choose reimbursing as the way of managing your unemployment. First is, you can manage your own program. You can, the challenge of that sometimes comes in knowing you're now being charged dollar for dollar for unemployment claims. So you want to be cautious of, letting someone collect unemployment that maybe they didn't necessarily qualify for. So you really want to fight those claims, make sure that you're not being charged for that, and as well as audit claims. With that 20% overpayment rate in California, it's really important to audit claims, but definitely some nonprofits do manage on their own, and that is an option. Another is to outsource with a company like us, 501c Agencies Trust. this is what we do. Unemployment is our business. Unemployment for nonprofits is what we do. So we can certainly help you manage as a reimbursing employer. And the third option is to purchase insurance. There's many different layers of insurance that are available. And if that's something you'd be interested in, maybe you're reimbursing now and want to look at a less risky option, we can certainly look at insurance options available. So I like to share some true numbers of organizations we've recently looked at, but first just to do a summary of how the tax is calculated here in California. The taxable wage base again is $7,000, so the tax range is between 1.6 and 6.2%. So that means for every employee that you have that makes up to $7,000 a year, you're paying anywhere from $112 to $434 in tax. And again, this can be zero if you decide that reimbursing is a better option for you. So here's some examples. The first one is a human services nonprofit that I recently worked with. Their taxable payroll was just shy of $1 million. Their tax rate was 4.7%. So that means they were paying about $45,000 in unemployment, which, you know, it doesn't sound horrible until we looked at what they were paying in claims. And they were paying over a 3-year period less than $200 on average in claims. So you look at that, those 3 years, they could have paid $600. Instead, those 3 years, they were paying $45,000 over. So what's that? Almost $130,000 in 3 years that they paid more than they would have had to. So this is an example of a nonprofit that would certainly qualify, and I'm glad to say that they did enroll with us and they are now reimbursing and saving lots and lots of money. Another one that we worked with recently is an SPCA, and their taxable payroll just over $700,000 with a tax rate of just under 3.4%. So their estimated taxes are about $24,000. Their estimated annual claims over the last 3 years, their average was just shy of $6,000. So, you know, you can see even with a little bit higher claims, a little bit less in taxes, they're still overpaying by $18,000. So still another great opportunity for this SPCA. And we look at this, you know, 1 year, $18,000, but, you know, over 10 years, that's a huge savings you're providing back to your nonprofit. So a little bit about us and how we fit into this whole picture. I always like to tell the story of our founder, John Huckstead, who was here in San Jose, California. He was a UCP executive. Prior to being a UCP executive, so United Cerebral Palsy, for those of you that don't know what that is, he was an executive director there. Prior to that, he worked in insurance. So as the executive director of UCP, he was looking over his numbers, and you know, just a lot of us probably just got through that phase of finalizing budgets for the year, but he was really trying to see where he could squeeze a few extra dollars. And he looked at what he was paying in taxes, was learning about this reimbursing option, and learned that he could save a lot of money, but was not sure, you know, but talked to some other colleagues in the San Jose area and realized not a lot of people were taking advantage of the reimbursing option. So what he did is he put together about 25 nonprofits here in this, what's now the Silicon Valley, but the San Jose area, and launched what at the time was the Joint Unemployment Compensation Trust. And so what he did was he put together a number of services that would help nonprofits who chose to reimburse. So really kind of what I look at, that the perfect mix of saving money from reimbursing, but reducing your risk that comes with having to pay dollar for dollar for those claims. And we've grown from 25 nonprofits back in 1982 to now we're helping over 3,000 nonprofits nationwide. And in 2016, we became 100% employee owned, which I do like, from anybody that you talk to within our company, I think you're going to get A+ service. So if this is something that you do choose to evaluate for your organization, we're a small company, about 25 employees, but from, we all own a piece of the pie, and I think you really do see that when you work with us. And the big thing is unemployment is what we do. So we've got a lot of people in-house that can help answer questions from the small details to the big picture questions when it comes to unemployment. And again, we are based here in California, and here is a list of, just a small sample of some of the organizations that we work with here in California. So how do we help? Well, the first is claims management. And again, and I know I've been focusing a lot on the reimbursing. I do want to say these services are available whether you're paying into the tax system or reimbursing. And the claims management can be really beneficial no matter how you're managing your unemployment. One is you do get that audit, so that 20%, that $1.5 billion in overpayment, we're going to audit those charges. We're going to make sure that you're not being overcharged. And we will also help you protest claims. Our claims management comes with unlimited access to hearing reps. So if you did want to protest a claim, you don't want to pay that $11,000 claim to someone that just stole from you, we're going to help you protest that claim if you want, helping you reduce your unemployment, whether you're paying SUI or reimbursing. Also, it's a centralized management tool. So all of your claims are going to come in through one portal called Shield. You're going to get your claims. You can just respond to them. We make sure that it's done in a timely manner. So it's really helping your HR department or finance if they happen to be doing your claims management. But it really helps save time and centralize. Because it's a online portal where your claims are coming. It can escalate if something's not taken care of in a timely manner. So if you do have someone unexpectedly out of the office, if within 3 days a claim hasn't been responded to, the next person up will get will be triggered to get an email so that we can make sure that those claims are taken care of. And another thing I do want to mention here, I know this is a California webinar, but if you do have staff in multiple states, you can sign up for the claim. The claims management will put all of the claims under one umbrella. So if you have staff and happen to have staff in 10 states, it'll all be centralized. You'll get all claims through Shield, really helping centralize that. And another service that we offer as the claims management was really the core of our services when we started, but soon after we started, we did learn that there was a number of HR questions were coming through. So we have developed a pretty robust HR services for our members, and the services include Ask HR, which is unlimited access to HR consultation. You can call, you can email, it's however you feel most comfortable getting your information, but Ask HR is available. We look at that as another tool in your toolbox when you're dealing with HR issues or questions. The Ask HR, and they take questions anywhere from disciplinary questions to maybe questions about job descriptions, just anything HR related. They're here to help you with. There's also a knowledge library that you would have access to, as well as a number of trainings throughout the year. I think they do a total of about 60 to 70 HR related trainings throughout the year. And reemployment is a service that I absolutely love that we offer to our members. This is provides a safety net for any employee that you have to let go, and we can provide coaching for the employee, how to write your resume, maybe even personality tests to help them find maybe their next job that maybe what they were currently doing wasn't the best fit for them. So some consultation to help them figure out a good job for them. And where this is a win, so that employee goes out at least with a little safety net, a little help to help them find their next job. But where it helps you is that weekly benefit amount. Even if they get a job just 1 week quicker, you just save $450. If you're reimbursing, if you're paying SUI, your tax rate isn't going to take quite as big of a hit because they're claiming fewer weeks of unemployment. In protection, most of our members do have some level of insurance that is provided, and we're to help reduce the risk of catastrophic claims. So if something happened within your organization, I work a lot with a lot of YMCAs nationwide, and I know when I worked for the Y, we had to close a preschool. So that's just one example of when it's really helpful to have protection, is if you do have to close down a whole program and let a significant number of people go, we do have the insurance available for that. And then the savings, this is where 501s, the agency's trust, the trust part of our organization comes in. And that's through the savings. We recommend that, and most of our members do this, they put money aside each year. Basic savings 101 is what I like to call it. And your organization does benefit from the interest, the investment income on that. The last 10 years, I know this year wasn't quite as great, but the last 10 years, we've averaged about 6.2% investment returns for our members. And so this is just a great way to help you manage the highs and lows of reimbursing, of managing unemployment. So we know that, every once in a while you might have to let go a couple of high level management people, unfortunately, or maybe a lot, whatever might happen within an organization, having the savings set aside can really help you. So, and a lot of times just using the claims management and the investment returns from the savings, those two combined many times completely offset the fees of our services. So would you like to evaluate your options? Oops. We can help you whether you're paying SUI and you want to see if reimbursing is a good option. If you're already reimbursing and you want to look at our services, or maybe even consider going back to SUI, we're happy to do a cost analysis for you. All we need from you, the easiest way to do it is the fee for our services is based on payroll. So getting your 941s from the last 4 quarters, or Q3 of 21 through Q2 of 2022 can help us do, we can provide a fee for our services if you provide that. If you are paying SUI and you have access to this tax rate notice, that is super helpful for us. And allows us to do an analysis to see what the best way for you to manage your unemployment is, and can estimate your potential savings. And I do want to say the reason we are doing this right now is because California has a great opportunity for you, or a great option. We're already 1.5 months into the year. You actually have until March 31st to make a change, and it's retro back to January 1st. So if you want to do an analysis, we can do that. And basically any money that's been set aside so far for your unemployment can be, will be returned to you. A lot of times I know payroll companies hold that money, and that money will be returned to you if you put money aside for this first quarter, if you decide to start reimbursing this year. So you get to reimburse the full year, even though you don't have to make that final decision till March 31st. So like I said, I will follow up with each of you individually who have attended, and I will send you those SHROOM, the credit information in case you need that, as well as a copy of this presentation. And if you do have any other questions, here's my contact information, but you will be getting an email from me shortly as well. So Thank you all for attending. I hope you did take advantage of that Uber Eats, and I hope whatever your Valentine's Day brings you today, I hope you have a super Valentine's Day and a great rest of the week. Thank you.